Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's start with a check of the top headlines this hour. The UK government says it is fully committed to upholding free speech after the US slapped visa bans on 5 prominent European working in the tech sphere, including 2 Britons. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu states that the country would invest $110 billion over the next 10 years to develop an independent arms industry. Ukrainian President Zelensky makes remarks on Ukraine joining the NATO. The leader says a new draft proposal to end the Russian invasion negotiated between Kyiv and Washington does not require Ukraine to formally renounce joining the NATO military alliance. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan offers his condolences to Libyans on December 24 for the death of Libyan Chief of Staff Mohammed Ahmed al-Haddad in a plane crash after taking off from Ankara. Russian Federal Security Service says it thwarted a terrorist attack at pipeline facility in Russia's Tyumen region. The European Union, France and Germany condemn US visa bans on European citizens, combating online hate and disinformation, with Brussels saying it could respond swiftly and decisively against the unjustified measures. Australia's New South Wales passes sweeping new gun and anti-terror rules following the mass shooting on Bondi Beach, tightening firearm ownership, banning public display of terror symbols and strengthening police power to curb protests. Chinese rocket developer Landscape plans to successfully recover a reusable booster in mid-2026, emphasizing the Beijing-based firm's ambition to become China's answer to SpaceX. And viewers, let's start with some news from Russia. Federal Security Service has successfully prevented a terrorist attack in the Tyumen city, which reportedly targeted the control room of Transneft's primary oil pipeline. According to FSB officials, the suspect was a Russian citizen, but he originally belonged to Ukraine's Vinnytsia region. The suspect is also alleged to be affiliated with a banned terrorist organization, which the Russian officials claim operate under Ukrainian secret services. The FSB PR center has further added that the suspect initially resisted arrest, and as a result he was neutralized during the counter operation. Investigation has revealed additional details which say the suspect was receiving instructions on assembling improvised explosive devices and procuring its components. Moreover, the FSB officials report that the suspect was communicating using WhatsApp, and alongside preparing for the attack, he was also gathering critical information around oil and gas facilities in several Russian regions. Joining me in this discussion is Glenn Grant, who is the former advisor to Defense Minister of Ukraine, joins us from Latvia. Thank you, Mr. Grant, thank you very much for joining us here at NewsX World. Mr. Grant, how do you respond to these allegations coming in from Russia that although the man was from Russia, he had roots in Ukraine and was constantly in touch with Ukrainians over the IEDs that he was planning to explode?
Well, firstly, happy Christmas to all those Christians who are listening.
Merry Christmas.
Secondly, this is of course not a terrorist act. Anything that's related to Ukraine is by law a response to the Russian activities. So if this person was working for Ukraine, then he's working perfectly legally in doing what he's doing. Although, of course, if you do not wear uniform, then you're at risk of being sentenced to death for something like this. But I think that, you know, one has to get the language right on these things. With Russia, it's always a terrorist act, but it's not a terrorist act. It's an act of war, which, of course, is they started it. So they should expect this sort of activity regularly to come from Ukrainians and Russians who believe that the war is unjust.
Sure. And as far as the peace negotiations are concerned, Zelensky has gone on to say that renouncing NATO membership is no longer a point in the new draft plan.
Yeah, well, because it's in the constitution. It was put into the constitution, I think, by during Poroshenko's time, that EU membership and NATO membership, and so that there is no way that Zelensky can actually get that out of the constitution. So he doesn't actually have a choice in this case. He basically have to have a referendum to do that, and a referendum is not about to happen. If I would just say for about the peace proposals, that most of them are particularly weak, and they are things that I'm afraid that Russia is not likely to accept. So I don't think we're seeing a peace proposal. I think this is just another let's keep Trump happy proposal, like the previous ones.
All right. That's all that I wanted to ask you, and that's all your time that I needed. Thank you very much, Mr. Grant, for joining us. And with that, viewers, we're now going to proceed in the bulletin. A claim has been made by senior Hamas official Mahmoud Mardawi on X, saying that an explosion in Rafah was caused by bombs left behind by Israeli forces, and that mediators have been informed about this assertion. An explosive device was reported to have detonated in southern Rafah earlier, injuring an Israeli soldier and leading Israel to accuse Hamas of violating the existing Gaza ceasefire agreement. Vows of retaliation were issued by Israeli leaders. Both sides continue to trade accusations over ceasefire breaches, with the fragile truce established on October 10 facing repeated strains. Efforts by mediators from regional nations and international actors to negotiate the next phases of the ceasefire and prevent further escalation are ongoing. Major General Sudhakar Ji joins us in the discussion here. He is a senior geopolitical and strategic defense expert and joins us from India. Thank you very much, General, for joining us once again on a Christmas Eve here at NewsX World. General, how do you see the latest, updates that are coming in from Israel, once again accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire? Also after Turkey's foreign minister has said that he held talks with Hamas on the next phase of the ceasefire. Do you think Turkey is really and should be a stakeholder in the Gaza peace plan?
Preeti, good evening. Thank you for getting me for your evening show. There are sub-parts to your question. First one is, I'll tackle the last part of your question. Turkey certainly is not the best choice. You require neutral countries to participate in the conflict. Turkey has got selfish interest to be part of the stabilization force. I do not recommend Turkey to be there, nor Pakistan also, willy-nilly. I was in an international channel a little while back. There were discussion on the almost similar issue. So Turkey definitely is not the best option available. There are many countries, but why Turkey is there, one needs to go little deeper into the issue behind what is visible or beyond the naked eye, is that the tail of Turkey is being twisted indirectly or directly by Trump. And Trump wants, it is like now or never. Turkey has been put on a mat and also given an opportunity to prove its worth if it wants to continue to enjoy the leverages and privileges and benefits of being a NATO ally. So that is one part. Second part I think you alluded to is about the bomb explosion. Well, in any kind of conflict, in the conflict zone, whether it is an ongoing conflict or post-conflict, the conflict zone is bound to be strewn with unexploded explosives, warheads, bombs, etc., etc. And there is a case, there is a possibility in the instant case that it could be one of them. But to get triggered and hit a armored vehicle and kill someone, it requires a lot of maneuvering, lot of engineering activity. It requires it to be set up. It requires it to target or point at a particular target. It requires to be activated by somebody. It requires some source of power which needs to be switched on. You see, that is where the manual operation comes in. Therefore, there is a director, there is a handler who's handling all this. This is my analysis. Kriti, kindly bear me out, and my military knowledge says that there is a design behind this whole thing. So, therefore, to say that idea for Netanyahu is becoming very vindictive and belligerent to retaliate and all, well, it is entirely his take because the ceasefire is on. I personally feel these kind of things will keep taking place, and both the leaders of both the parties or the stakeholders, they have to grow beyond a particular level. And I am not saying to be 100% statesman-like, but there is peace at the end of the tunnel. We are looking for peace and harmony to restore or come back to this mindless conflict or the war-torn zone, and let there be some semblance of orderliness. Only then things will keep building up. And third and last point, there is a bigger plan in place. What is the bigger plan? The war has to keep simmering on under the doctrine of mow the grass. Okay, whether it is Hamas, you are talking about South Gaza now. Little while back, I was in one of the channels. They were talking about Hezbollahs. Okay, so the Hezbollah front is already burning. Hamas also has to be kept on simmering. Yemen, the Houthis also have to be, the hammer has to be on them. And there are multiple militias. So mow the grass is a concept of, hitting back and weaken the tentacles of the octopus that I often keep referring, particularly when you are the anchor. Hope the people will understand what I am saying. Octopus doctrine, the head of the octopus is Iran. Tentacles are four as of now, identifiable four tentacles: Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, and Hadel al-Saif. These are the four. There are multiple militias, even including in West Bank and elsewhere in Iraq and other places. So therefore, this exercise of mowing the grass will carry on. Last but not the least, the head of the octopus is going to be hit very soon rather than later. The head is nothing but Iran. Iran should be prepared for a conflict that may be very, very short, truncated, but it's going to be a hard-hitting one by Israel, duly supported by America. Back to you, please.
All right, sure. Do stay on with me, General. There's some breaking news now also coming in. Because India's Ministry of External Affairs has condemned the demolition of a statue of a Hindu deity, Lord Vishnu, at the Thailand-Cambodia border, saying such acts hurt the sentiments of followers around the world. The statue, built in 2014, was toppled by a bulldozer operated by Thai military engineers amid ongoing border tension. The incident comes after more than 2 weeks of military clashes between Thailand and Cambodia. Responding to reports, India's Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randir Jaiswal said Hindu and Buddhist deities are deeply revered across the region and form part of a shared civilisational heritage. The Ministry of External Affairs said that regardless of territorial disputes, disrespectful acts against religious symbols should not take place. India also urged both sides to return to dialogue and diplomacy to restore peace and prevent further loss of life and damage to property and heritage. All right, I request Sudhakarji to join us back in the discussion here for his comment on this.
Kriti, this is a remarkable stance taken by Ministry of External Affairs. I think it is first of its kind, because in a spectrum of course of action or activities to be taken by a rising nation like India, calling out is very, very important. Nothing can be stopped in the world. Anyone is free to do anything anywhere in the world. But calling out requires lots of economic, military, diplomatic, military intelligence, and the comprehensive national power. What comes to my mind at this point, Kriti, while I am responding, is that India has come a long way. The sphere of influence, earlier traditionally we used to talk about from Persian Gulf to Malacca Strait. I'm glad and happy and very proud to be an Indian that the sphere of influence has started getting extended beyond the Malacca Strait, and we have started calling out such kind of activities which are malicious in nature and which are violent in nature against the religion and very growth of our civilization as a nation. We need to call it out in order to feel proud and defend our country as a India, as a rising nation, and to be a global power by 2047 or earlier than that.
But it's more than just that, Sudhakarji. Won't you say that Hindus and Hindus have been one of the most liberal religions, and if this incident had been, if there was any other religion that was targeted, I'm sure there would have been riots by now and people would have been killed, as we can see in Bangladesh.
You are too sharp and intelligent to actually, catch on to. I was being a military man. We are debarred from talking anything about religion. But since you are asking a pointed question, I totally agree with you. Let me also submit one point. Having traveled, if not all the countries, major part of the world by now, I personally feel that being a citizen of India, if I don't speak out, despite being a military man, Hindus are the the least united community in the world.
Yeah.
Within the country itself, we don't go to the temple, we don't talk about ourselves, there is no unity. The first moment you get a chance is this, you start casting aspersion. And anyway, that is besides the, but the fact of the matter is that you are raising. Yes, I do agree. This is the most accommodative and most, I would say, patient and a very liberal kind of a religion wherein we accept anything and everything. All nonsense is also accepted by Hinduism.
Yeah.
Therefore, there is a requirement for our religion also to evolve. And we need to say the time has come. We have come a long way. 78 years after independence, somebody slapping you on your one cheek, you don't show the others cheek to be slapped. Our strategic doctrine has actually undergone change from strategic restraint to strategic, reciprocal risk. We are talking about escalatory matrix to be dominated with a chosen entry point and exit point. We are also talking about deterrence of denial having migrated to deterrence of punishment. We tell the enemy and tell them that here it is, we are going to hit. So under these circumstances of changes and evolution, I think you have a point in your question. There is much more that Hindus have to unite together.
Yes.
We need to assert as a force. Unity is not only the end all and be all. We need to assert in a polite and in a decisive manner so that not the world, we ourselves have to defend ourselves. Nobody from outside is going to come and defend us.
Absolutely.
Back to you.
Sure. Thank you once again, General Badu. Once again, stay on with us. Viewers, moving ahead, newly released U.S. Justice Department documents say that President Donald Trump flew on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet 8 times during the 1990s, according to an internal email from a New York prosecutor. The email dated January 2020 states flight records show Trump was aboard Epstein's plane on multiple occasions, including some flights with Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who is now serving a 20-year prison sentence. There is no allegation in the documents that Trump committed any crime. Trump has previously denied ever flying on Epstein's plane. The Justice Department said some claims in the released files are untrue or sensational, but released the documents under a new transparency law mandating disclosure of Epstein-related records. All right, I request General Sudhakar to join us back in the discussion here. Sudhakar ji, now of course we all know that the files are heavily redacted and there are legit reasons that have been presented to redact the files. But such limited evidence of Trump's involvement, is there scope for suspicion there?
Very interesting question you're asking me. But if I put my feet in the shoes of Donald Trump, I would make all-out effort to come clean. And if I have made a blunder in my life, I would like to admit before the world, yes, I have a lot of respect for Bill Clinton. That man, he admitted what he did. And same goes for Donald Trump. If It is there, his name is there, he's involved in the case. It will do good to him. It is being a president for the second tenure is least of important thing in a human life. The greater benefit and the milestone that he would achieve is nirvana that we talk about, that self-realization. Is he wrong or is he right? He has to decide for himself as a president, going by the inputs which are coming and going by not by the public opinion. Objectively, if you look at the judiciary documents, I personally feel his name is figuring in a substantive manner,
Yeah.
and therefore it do good to him. And not as a president of USA in second tenure, as a human being, he would come out clean and as a stronger person and human being that he can do miracles and wonders for the world. All is not the end of becoming president of USA. There is much more that he
And
can do.
Sudhakar ji, this is not a man who seems to have learnt his lessons, right? Even recently, he'd made those comments on Melania Trump's undergarments. He's, been involved in that hush money case. He's had Me Too allegations on him. Of course, those files in the, his images in the Epstein files. It's anybody's guess what kind of a man Donald Trump really is and how much of an involvement could he possibly have had with Jeffrey Epstein's island.
Absolutely, Kriti. For the sake of propriety and respect to a public leader elected by the people, I would hold back my comment. All I would say, first, we need to become human beings, and thereafter, political or military or social leaders. Is he a human being by any chance? Does he fulfill the parameters, the QR, qualitative requirement of being a human being? He should ask this question himself, not Sudhakarji or you raising the point in the channel. So more important than what we achieve or become in our life is what we are within. That is what matters. For that, I think he needs to come to India and go through a yoga session or one of the sessions for Nirvana.
Well, as journalists, we can only ask questions and have experts like you give your opinion on that. But I thank you for now, Sudhakarji, for joining us in this discussion. And with that, we move ahead, viewers. Now, the Indian Space Agency has launched a LVM-3 rocket from the Satish Dhawan Space Center earlier today, which is carrying its heaviest ever satellite, Bluebird Block 2. The satellite weighs about 6,100 kilograms, which is over 6 tons, making it the largest ever commercial communication satellite to be deployed in Earth's lower orbit. For future projects, ISRO plans to use a modified version of the LVM-3 rocket, including for its human space flight program, Gaganyaan mission. Let's now listen in to what the chairman of ISRO has said after the successful launch of India's heaviest satellite.
This is the heaviest satellite ever lifted from Indian soil using an Indian launcher. This is also the third fully commercial mission of LVM-3, and the vehicle has demonstrated its excellent track record. With this mission, India has successfully launched 434 satellites for 34 countries. In today's mission, as I told, all the vehicle systems have performed extremely well.
And I now welcome Dr. B.R. Guru Prasad. He's a renowned former ISRO scientist and joins us live from Bengaluru. Thank you very much, Dr. Guru Prasad, for joining us. Now, India's Bahubali rocket launches the US's heaviest ever satellite. Do talk to us about the significance of this monumental launch.
Good evening to you and namaskar to all the viewers. Yes, it's a very significant launch. It is a very significant success. All of us have to celebrate as Indians. It's a matter of pride that Atmanirbharta has been demonstrated once again. Because today, our LVM-3 rocket, satellite launch vehicle, in its 9th launch, it launched a very heavy satellite, 6,000 kilogram plus weight satellite. And it's a very, very sophisticated satellite belonging to an American company, which built it, and it got it launched from India. It's a matter of pride. I'm repeating it once again. And the launch was very, very accurate. The ISRO chairman in the morning, he told that the satellite would have reached an orbit of about 520 kilometers height, a circular orbit, circling the Earth at 520 kilometers height. The rocket, our Bahubali, which is affectionately dubbed as Bahubali LVM-3, it
Yeah.
took the satellite to a height of 518.5 kilometers. Only 1.5 kilometers difference. That is nothing, in fact. That shows where India stands today in the domain of space. India today is a very, very conformed spacefaring nation, one of the few spacefaring nations which have a robust space program. And the fact that, this was the ninth flight of LVM-3, the other
Yeah.
8 flights, it has proven its reliability as well as versatility in the past 8 launches before today. So whether it was a suborbital flight or whether it was towards geostationary orbit, a very important orbit, or whether it is launching Chandrayaan 2 and Chandrayaan 3, or whether it is to a low Earth orbit. I mean, like today, it was taken to about 520 kilometers high orbit. That is, low Earth orbit means lying within 1,000 kilometers of the Earth's surface. So the fact that all the 9 launches of LVM-3, which is the most powerful rocket in ISRO stable, has once again fared extremely well and has been successful. It speaks volumes about India's space capabilities.
Sure. Dr. Guru Prasad, also, what's next for ISRO and India's bid for Atmanirbharta in the space domain?
Atmanirbharta has been practiced by ISRO since its inception almost.
Yeah.
But let me give a classic example as to how far India has come. I would like to remind the viewers that on November 21st, 1963, that is 62 years back, Indian space program formally began with the launch of a small rocket, okay, a research rocket called sounding rocket, that is to study the upper atmosphere. That rocket was provided by NASA to the Indian space scientists, and it carried a scientific instrument, okay, which was from France. The launch took place on November 21st, 1963. India was still an upstart in the domain of space, that too being a developing country at that time. But today, 62 years later, we have launched a very heavy communication satellite weighing almost 6.5 tons to the intended orbit very, very accurately by an Indian launch vehicle, which weighs at liftoff, at the time of rising from the ground, the rocket weighs only 640,000 kilograms. And the speed which that rocket, Bahubali rocket, achieved in a short span of about 16 minutes, it was standing like a rock on the launch pad. And within about 16 minutes, an unbelievable velocity or speed of 27,000 kilometers per hour. That was the speed achieved. From day-to-day life point of view, it is very difficult for us to appreciate. What next for India? Yes, GSLV Mark III or LVM-3, Bahubali as it is known, that is the rocket which is going to launch our Gaganyaan astronauts, in fact. Gaganyaan is the first step in India's human space flight program, which brings in a new dimension to our space program. And of course, there are going to be a lot of launches of different kinds of satellites, be they communication, be they weather satellites, be they Earth observation satellites, be they navigation satellites, scientific satellites. Chandrayaan 4 is there, Chandrayaan 5 is there, and you have other spacecraft studying the different celestial bodies of the solar system. So there are still under study stage. Okay, so it will be a very busy period for the Indian space program, and Gaganyaan is going to be the first Indian Gaganyatri as per the current plans, as I understand from ISRO. It is in 2027. the very first launch. After that, by 2035, we want to have our own space station in Earth orbit. And by 2040, India has an ambition to land its Gaganyatris on the moon. And by 2047, as the country celebrates 1 century of its independent existence,
Yeah.
it wants to have a permanent presence on the moon. It's a very busy period indeed
Yeah.
for Indian space program. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Guru Prasad, for joining us and speaking to us on this monumental occasion. And moving ahead, viewers, former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has been allowed temporary leave from prison to undergo hernia surgery, as approved by Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes. The procedure is scheduled for Thursday at Hospital DF Star in Brasilia. Bolsonaro has been serving a 27-year sentence for involvement in a coup plot and has been under 24-hour police monitoring since his imprisonment late November. Plans for a media interview were cancelled due to his health condition, while speculation continues about his son Flavio potentially leading the political right in Brazil's 2026 elections. And that's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.